Welcome to the Pucks with Haggs podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Make sure to hit subscribe to the Bruins Rinkside YouTube channel and turn on notifications for when a new video drops on the channel. The show, this Pucks with Haggs podcast, is also brought to you by PrizePicks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, everybody, welcome in to the Pucks with Haggs podcast, the 215th episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. I'm your host, Joe Haggerty. You can find my work at joehaggerty.substack.com. Subscribe and get yourself a premium membership. Get all of my Bruins and NHL writing sent straight directly to your inbox. I also write columns for the Boston Sports Journal, so go to bostonsportsjournal.com, get a membership there to read all the columns from everybody, and also we do a weekly Q&A with the subscribers where I answer a bunch of questions, and it's always a lot of fun. So you got to be a subscriber to do that, so jump right on in. With me today, great guests, longtime friends and colleagues, the Boston Globe's Kevin Paul Dupont. Dupes, how you doing?
Great. Good to be with you guys.
There you go. Enjoying a little morning power shake there, energy shake.
That's right. I just got back from my morning walk. So
there you go. Very good. I love it. And with us, also longtime friend and colleague, Mick Colageo. Mick, please tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
I've already had my 6 Red Bulls. Rink Wrap, the blog is linked on X and Facebook, and I finally have up there my visit to the Basketball Hall of Fame and linking to Kevin Votor's great report on our more on our visit and with basketball Stanley Cup.
Cool. I love that. And it reminds me.
Hall of Fame knows about this now, and they're pretty excited.
That's awesome. It reminds me too that this November is going to be there's going to be a super huge Boston contingent up in Toronto for the Hockey Hall of Fame weekend. That has got a definite Boston flavor to it, with Zdeno Chara and Jack Parker and Jumbo Joe all going in, all people with strong Boston ties there. I'm sure that's something that you're looking forward to, Dupes. I
am. In fact, I was just booking the hotel for that and trying to figure out all the logistics. And the Bruins play there that weekend, right?
Yep.
There's that Saturday. So it's I've been to a few of those. They're good fun, and especially, I shouldn't say. I went to BU, so I'm thrilled for Jackie Parker, and I spent a lot of time reporting on Z and Jumbo, and so good stuff.
Yeah, long time coming for all three. I think the last time I was there for one of those was Mark Recchi's, which was awesome. Great ceremony, great induction, great weekend. Same Dupes, the Bruins were up there playing the Leafs on Saturday night, hockey night in Canada, so it makes for a fantastic weekend.
I think that was the same weekend. Recchi was the same weekend as Jeremy Jacobs going in.
Yes, that's right. You're right.
Sure.
Absolutely right. Yes, it was Recchi and Jeremy Jacobs. You're absolutely right. I can't believe I didn't even remember that one. But yeah, a huge Boston flavor to that one as well. And I think that was that the same weekend where Brad Marchand was up there and they gave like some award to him like after the game, and then he was like kind of hamming it up for the crowd. Was that game? I think it was.
That sounds right.
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah. I seem to remember that too. Like they gave out an award before or after the game, the Hall of Fame game up in Toronto, and he was having fun with the crowd up there. So should be a lot of fun that weekend. All right, let's get into it, guys. We're just going to answer some questions. We did this last week as well. There's not a lot going on, as you well know. Everybody's still at their cottages in Canada, and for at least, I don't know, a few more days. Things should start to crank up as far as captains' practices and things like that in the next week or two. But it's very, very quiet in this area as far as the hockey goes. So we'll answer some of these. This one's from Mike from Stoneham. What's the thing you are most excited about for this upcoming season? Mick, anything you are very excited about for this upcoming season?
Boy, where do I begin? I'm always giddy about the return. But I guess just to pick things out of a hat, and I could go with several things, but I'm pretty excited to find out how good Fraser Minton can be.
That's a good one.
I love how he plays. I already see that he can play big boy hockey. The kid's got quads like Kastelik, and he takes Bergeron-like forechecking tracks. He stands up in the corners and wins pucks. He
Yep.
makes intelligent decisions. I just feel like this guy, depending how much offense he generates in his career, he could be a hell of a player.
I mean, I think that's a good one. The only thing I would caution people to not get overly excited about with him is the offensive part. Like, I think in a lot of ways, Charlie Coyle is a very apt sort of comparison for him. And that's the track that the Bruins kind of have him on as far as who he's going to be. So there may always be he'd be an awesome player if he could score a little bit more, or trying to prompt him to shoot the puck a little bit more. There may be a lot of that kind of stuff going on throughout his career if the goals don't flow early and often. But like, I agree with you that like the intangibles, the details in his game, all of that stuff is really good. I really noticed the way he was deployed in the playoffs for Providence and the way that they used him, especially late in games, late close games, certain situations, D-zone faceoffs. There was a lot of different areas they used him where you could tell the coaches trusted him a ton. And they put him out there knowing that he was going to make the right play and get them out of danger, or not, at least not submarine them with mistakes. And it tells me he's smart. It tells me he's talented. It tells me he's hardworking, all that different kind of stuff. I know that I don't know that he's going to be like a 30 goal scoring kind of guy. He's more of like a solid, steady third line center type. But like in general though, Mick, I think that is part of the exciting thing of this training camp. I mean, I'm excited because I like guys like Mikey Eisman. I like guys like Tanner Jeannot. But I'm also excited because I think it's going to be fun. This training camp is going to be so much more wide open than any training camp I can remember with the Bruins, where there's a lot of jobs up for grabs. There's a lot of combinations that haven't been determined. There's a lot of players that could rise up and take jobs. I think in the past, you've kind of known what the roster is going to be. And even now, you probably know likely what the roster is going to be. But I think there's a lot more room there for surprises in this training camp with the Bruins than there's been in the past. And I think that's always, for media people, I think that's always exciting to watch, is that competition that's going to go on in camp and how those things are going to play out. Dupes, how about you? What are you excited about this coming season?
Among the many reasons I love Mick's ability to drill down to places that I haven't even been thinking about.
Yeah.
And Fraser Minten is one of them. And he could be right. Mick, as soon as you mentioned his quads, I thought of Milan Jurčina, the scoring machine. He had huge quads.
Yeah. Yes,
huge quads.
Yeah. He was like Holger Rune,
the scoring
tennis
machine.
player.
Yeah. But I'll get off anatomy now before we get in trouble. I think I don't know. I find myself far more optimistic about this Bruins team, and I think you're focusing on Bruins here, Joe, and not league at large. But
yep,
yeah, I find myself far more optimistic, energized about this Bruins team, in part because of the turnover, the change. You know, my nature is to always look for opportunity. But that said, I'll end up going into the season exactly where I have been the last 4 seasons, which is to say, this will be my 4th consecutive season saying, I think they'll be in the wild card mix.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the first 2 years, they blew it out, right? Last year they missed the wild card. So there's a lot of doom and gloom around it. I get it. They had a bad season.
Yeah.
They didn't go out and get the number 1 center, but they still, when you look at every team, not every, because we've seen Florida. I don't think Florida has any foibles or weak spots.
No.
But most every team out of the other 31, including the Bruins, they got a lot of soft spots. The Bruins have soft spots, no question. And the biggest one is that number 1 center job. They really don't have a horse there, or never mind a thoroughbred in there. So that's concern, but I still think they've got the goalie. They've got really good defensemen.
Yeah.
They can cobble it together. I think the new coach, Sturm, will bring a new approach to that, and it might fall short, but I think that's the energy I'm feeling. So that's kind of my excitement to see how it sorts out. Fraser Minten, to me, I had a flashback to Carlson Kuhlman when I went to the development camp. It wasn't development camp. What do they call that thing? Prospects Tourney or Prospects Challenge in Buffalo. I think I've been to 10 or 11 in a row now. I went to that. I looked at Carson Kuhlman. I said, this guy's the deal. On pucks like dog on a bone, and he's going to get after it. Captain at UML, UMD, I should say.
Yep.
And nice guy, real effort.
Hey, he was good enough to start Game 7 of the Stanley Cup or play in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals against St. Louis Blues and over David Backes, right? So apparently Bruce Cassidy really liked what he saw too.
Yeah, I mean there were threads there.
He was like a right-handed Marchand on his best day. That's what he reminded me of. But his best days were too few and far between.
He couldn't maintain it. Like he was one of those guys that would look great when he was had a couple days off or hadn't played in a couple days. But it seemed like the schedule, he had a hard time maintaining that level of performance and the ability to, skate at that top speed when he played. And he was undersized a little bit too. But like solid player, he had some good games and the coaches really liked him, obviously.
I think, and again, I think a lot of times we look at guys, and I have to go back and consider a whole lot of things here. But when you don't see guys put it together consistently, when you see them in practices have the speed that when come game time, it doesn't translate. To me, often what that issue is they don't process the game fast. They've got the legs for it. They've got the body for it. They've got all the anatomy. They've got all the work. They do they do. But if you can't think it fast enough, then you're not there, right?
Yep.
You got to the cruise ship and it sailed and you stood on the dock. You got to be able to think it.
That's absolutely true. That is true of the best players in the world, and that is definitely what's a huge quality characteristic that separates good from great players. The best players in the world process at an insane speed.
And kind of what proves that is if you look at Bergeron's game, no one thought it faster, better, more thoroughly than Bergeron. If you looked at his skill set, not the biggest shot, not the fastest skater.
Yep.
His ability to get around on brains, process the game. We saw it with Brad Park when he had no knees left. We saw it with Jean Rattel when his back was gone. Guys who know how to think it, anticipate, and get to those places. And I have no idea, to go back to the comment on Fraser, I have no idea if he's got that.
Right.
And that'll be the intriguing part to find out.
Yeah, and that'll bear out when he gets a large pocket of playing time. You'll be able to evaluate that one way or the other and see if he can do that adequately or at the top of class. It'll be interesting to watch. I agree with you, Dupes, talking about the overall sort of prospects for this team, how it's being perceived right now, the general vibe around this team when it comes to fans and people that you talk to. I agree. People are very down on this team and think they're going to be in the running for Gavin McKenna and think that they're going to be in the lottery again and that it's going to be another terrible year, similar to last year. And I like you think that they're going to compete for the wild card and think they have the potential to maybe get in on the wild card. And like you, the first things you mentioned, you are never going to be terrible in the NHL if you have good goaltending and solid defense.
Right.
You are never going to be terrible. You're going to be at least middle of the pack or playoff caliber if you have those two things. The teams that are awful are the teams that get terrible goaltending and their defense is bad. And the reason, a big part of the reason the Bruins were terrible last year, Jeremy Swayman was awful, pretty much wire to wire with a few moments where he sort of flashed what he can do. And their top two defensemen got hurt, and then they traded away a bunch of their veterans. And that's why they sank to the bottom. When at the trade deadline, they were still sort of vying for the wild card, or at least within shouting distance. And then they hit the iceberg once they traded all those players away, and their two defensemen were hurt. And that's when they really sank to the bottom. So I think that they're going to be okay. And I think adding guys like Isamont, Jeannot, having Zadorov, having Kostelic if he's healthy, they're going to be fun to watch too. I think they're going to compete hard. And they're going to work hard, and they're going to be physical, and they're going to play a style that I think Bruins fans are going to identify with a little bit. So I do think they're going to end up surprising people this year that have very low expectations for them, and maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes it's better to underpromise and overdeliver, and this might be one of those Bruins teams. Mick, where are you at right now, just with these Bruins in general, and how you feel about them?
They need to be a team that sneaks up. Because that's the only way they're going to break through and make any noise. But I do think that The second line is the elephant in their kitchen, personified most bullseyed by Casey Middlestat. How well Pavel Zacha starts every season like a house of fire. His second and third efforts on pucks always wind up giving him a really strong position on the team mid-season. And then for the last 2 years, toward the end of the season, he fades. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's injuries or what that are creeping in. Victor Arvidsson has been brought in on a mercenary situation to see if he can bring out of Middlestat and solidify that second line because Arvidsson is a KGO veteran who plays with a little P and V. And even though he's not that fast zone to zone and he's not that big, he's I think they're trying to mitigate Marchand just a little bit with Arvidsson by trying to get that attitude back on in their top six. I'm not worried about the bottom six, even though I agree with you that that's the one spot on the team where we don't know what it's going to look like, and there are many players who are going to be in camp who have a chance at one or two spots on that bottom six. It's not
Yeah.
like there's many spots on this team. I'd say one or two, and they're in the bottom six. And who gets them? That could be up to 12 guys. And probably keying on six. So I have a general idea. I think it'd be great to have a little like a fan lottery or something on set the opening night lineup pending injury. And give us your opening night lineup and see who nails it. Because I think that we got the back end nailed down. I think we got the top six nailed down. It's the bottom six that we probably could speak to 4 of 6 spots, but then tell me out of 10 guys who's going to be in those other 2 on opening night.
Yeah.
So
No, I think that's a good
that's how I
point.
see
And
it.
I would say it's more the third line. We have no idea what it's going to look like. The fourth line, I think you have a pretty good idea of who will likely be on that line or who the ideal candidates would be. Or, I feel like Corrali, Isamont, and maybe Costello, like there's going to be some guys that are going to be probably on that fourth line if they're healthy. But maybe they get pushed up to the third line if some of the other guys aren't ready or don't look good enough.
That's what. Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, but
Just a lot of moving parts here. It really depends a lot on Matt Poitras.
yeah,
Is he ready to center the third line? He's had
well,
2 years to try it, and he hasn't sustained in either one of them. First one related more to health.
yep.
This coming season is a big one for him.
Yeah, and I think your guy Fraser Minton will be in the running for that spot too, and he'll get looks there. I think a lot depends on Poitras and Minton and whether either one of them is ready to potentially be the third line center. And that plays into
I think
this.
Minton, in my opinion, is Minton's ready to be the third line center, but they want Poitras to be the third line center and
Yeah,
to let Minton play left wing for him. The question for the Bruins management is going to be, is there going to be a long table argument on whether they would rather have Fraser Minton play center in the American League and hone his offense or develop his offense, or would they rather have him in the NHL because he's an NHL player right now?
Yeah, let me throw this to Dupes because this actually plays into one of the questions that we have. What should we expect of Matt Poitras next season? Does he become an legit NHLer and produce with the big club? He's only played 33 games each of the last 2 years, and it hasn't shown much progress. I disagree with that. I think he showed a lot of progress in Providence when they finally just let him stay down there and develop in the second half of last year in the playoffs. I thought he was very good. But this person says, worried he's the second coming of Ryan Spooner and that number 51 jersey. I think he's a better player than Spooner. I got to be honest with you, just having watched him in the time and the age that he is, he's going to end up being a better player in the NHL than Ryan Spooner. But Dupes, that's from M Hall 3333.
I thought of Spooner earlier in the discussion when you were talking about choices for Game 7
yes,
with Coleman, because in that year, Game 6 against Ottawa, Cassidy went with Bolesky over Spooner, and
yep.
I thought I'd seen enough of Bolesky at that point. I had,
yep,
and not that Spooner was going to be the ultimate difference, but I would have gone with Spooner anyway. Yep. The way I think of Poitras these days, I constantly think he should change his name to Poitras, because I constantly forget him. I go up and down the lineup, and then I say, "Oh yeah, Poitras. We're going to put him." So, again, nice kid. Has some real assets. has a propensity to get himself clobbered.
Yep.
Which we saw with Anders Bjork.
Yep.
To his detriment, and maybe to the end of his career, getting clobbered. So my approach with him right now would be to put him in the safest place that he gains some confidence. I think he does think the game quickly enough. He is a smart player.
Yep.
And not leave him vulnerable. Make sure he knows. Be aware of score and time and who's on the ice and what predicaments are, because he takes some really dumb wallops. So I again, he's certainly in the mix. I don't feel that he's prominently in the vision of a top 6 player at this point because of size and because of that propensity. But he's an interesting player. We'll see where it goes. Some of these are so many, and I know they're different players here, but I'll bring another name into the discussion, and now he's gone completely. He is. He's gone to Europe. Jacob Lackow. I liked his game.
Yeah,
had some energy. He had spirit in it. So again, another tweener, and I think a Poitras in that same sense.
Yeah, I was really surprised, and I think I talked to Mick about this last week. I was really surprised he didn't get an NHL contract from somebody, Lauko, even if it wasn't the Bruins.
Me too. And Matt Grzelcyk.
Yeah, yes, he's still out there. He'll get a deal though, right? Like I have no doubt that somebody's maybe he's holding out for more than a team is willing to give him right now, because he was coming off a good year. He had 40 career high in points. He was playing over 20 minutes a night in Pittsburgh. Right. Like his power play numbers were really good. He was a minus player, but Pittsburgh wasn't very good. But you would expect he's not going to have to sing for his supper with a training camp invite, Grzelcyk, that he would get a deal somewhere based off what he did. And maybe he still will with the BU contingent going to the Rangers. Maybe they'll figure out some way to open up.
I thought that was automatic. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he made good. He made really for a 1-year deal for where he was in his contract. I think he made 2.7 last year. I forget the exact figure.
Something like
he made
that.
some pretty good money for a guy who arguably would have fallen into that 775, 875 class. And maybe your point, Joe, maybe that's where he is right now. There's just a lot of clubs willing to take him on. And
maybe that's on the table. Maybe that's been on the table, and he's holding out for something better via the the PTO.
Yeah.
Right. We're saying the same thing. So I hope so.
Very like-minded right now, this situation.
Yes. I think he got underused here. I think especially how the power play was flailing for as long as it did. And again, he's not a power play horse. I get it, but I think he could have been an instrument. And I think under Sturm, he probably would have gotten that shot. Again, I think you're going to see a different approach and a different vision on who can play, who can't, all of these things, situational. And that's another intriguing part of this training camp is we will get to see how Sturm sees the game through a coach's eyes now for the first time.
Yeah, I'm excited for all that because I think it's going to be good. People view him as an internal candidate, but he's coming from another organization. He's going to be bringing an outside perspective and an outsider's eyes to everything that's been going on with the Bruins and all the players that are here. And I think that's good, and I think that's going to be exciting in training camp, just like you're mentioning. All right, let's stop and thank our friends at PrizePicks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Join over 10 million users and get started today. Instead of battling thousands of other players that could be pros or sharks, simply pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll right in. It's fun, and it is super simple. On PrizePicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite hockey players and players from baseball, basketball, football, esports, and so much more. You can now win up to 2,000 times your money on PrizePicks, and they also offer Venmo, MasterCard, and Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And let's also thank and let everybody know that you're listening to this Pucks with Haggs episode and that we ask you to subscribe to this podcast, like and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, and enjoying all this hockey talk, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Bruins Rinkside YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Bruins content with fellow Bruins talkers like Connor Ryan and Evan Marinofsky. There's also the CLNS Media Network and Celtics All Access on CLNS, the NBA History Channel, Patriots Press Pass, and Bruins Rinkside YouTube channels as well. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the very instant, the exact instant, a new Pucks with Haggs podcast video drops on the interwebs. We all look forward to that moment when we get that little ding and notification on our phone. It is like Christmas come early. All right, next question from Sponge Ruiner on Twitter. Better off watching Boston College this season and hoping for some luck with getting McKenna next year. More than anything, though, the Bruins are seemingly only ever good when they have a top D-man, and they lack that. I think they've got two top D-men. I mean, is Charlie McAvoy everything you would possibly want in a number one defenseman? Does he do everything well? I would say no, but I would also say that he does enough things well, and the things he does well, he does really well, to call him a top D-man. And I think when he's complimented like a guy like Hampus Lindholm, I think you can say that you have two top D-men, two horses at the top. The thing that the big question here, Mick, is that the health of the two of them. And I think that's a huge question mark going into this year, is if the both of them can stay healthy. McAvoy's been relatively healthy over the last few years. The Four Nations thing was kind of a freak injury, throwing his body around, trying to knock the bejesus out of Connor McDavid. I think, trying to win a gold for Team USA, he ended up getting hurt. And it was because he was playing at his highest level of intensity. And then, obviously there were other things going on with the medical staff and some questions around things that were going on there. So it seemed like kind of a freak thing when you look at all of the factors involved about what happened to him. Hampus Lindholm, I think that's a different story. He had a fractured kneecap. He missed almost all of the year. He tried to come back at one point. It definitely had a setback of some kind or some discomfort from the procedure that he had. Needed to undergo another procedure, was shut down for the year. And a big part of them trading off the veteran players they did at the deadline and having that fire sale was because both of these top defensemen were gone. But I think when you look at their defenseman core, I certainly think they have enough defenseman talent and enough top defensemen to win and compete and be a playoff caliber team. And if the team was better around them, I think they would be fine to be a Stanley Cup contender. The issue is more, I think, with the forwards, and Jeremy Swayman needing to come back and be exactly what he was in a couple of years ago. Mick, your thoughts just on whether you're going to be better off watching BC than the Bruins this year, and if the Bruins have a top D-man or they do not.
If I was an agitated coach after practice, is there a question in there, Joe? Yeah. So I would say that
Mick, if any of us are used to that, I think it would be you, my friend, right?
I own it.
Let's give SpongeBob some respect here with this question.
Yeah, by the way, Dupes is having flashbacks to HF boards with these monikers. So anyway, my favorite one is the guy who calls himself Falls for It every year. So they had a big three with McAvoy, Lindholm, and Carlo.
Yep.
They shifted in the post-Bergeron Krejci era from a two elite center team to a big three defense team. And the big three defense is now McAvoy, Lindholm, and Zadorov. So, and I think the question is a bit of a microcosm of the spoiled rottenness of our fandom, of our fan base, in the wake of the two ridiculous decades of the 21st century that we had, the constant threat, if not winning, by the Patriots, the Red Sox, and then the ascent of the Celtics, and finally the Bruins, and then this incredible run that the Bruins have had that just carried forward the momentum of that. Winning 50 games a year and always being in the hunt and being buyers. It's finally over. And so now all of a sudden we're going to pick on their best players. I think that's a little, that's a little Boston fanish to me to do that. To me, you identified the question, Joe. If you want this to turn into the Louis year, the first Peter Chiarelli season of 06-07, and just be a completely different version of suck, then kick McAvoy and Lindholm right out of it, like you did last year with the injuries, and have Swayman not have a camp like he didn't last year, so you don't get the goaltending or the foundational defense, and you'll have your crappy team. You could do that to almost any team in the league. You can have key injuries undermine their ability to traject upward into the playoffs. So right now I'm looking at it saying, yeah, this is the foundation of the team. I think they're pretty good back there, and I expect them to be pretty good back there. But we don't know if there's going to be injuries. We do know that McAvoy has had serious shoulder stuff in his career, and that playoff teams torpedo him. They come after him. I think the Bruins are trying to. I think Zadorov was an attempt to get interference to that. Although now I don't think they're going to play together. I think Zadorov will play with Jokiharju. But I do think that this is what they can adjust to if they want to. But they need to do a better job of protecting McAvoy and his retrievals.
Dupes, your thoughts?
No, the only thing I would quibble with there is Mick's saying you could do that to almost every team in the league. There's no almost. You bring in those factors, every team in the league.
Yep.
Totally correct, Mick. That's what you'd get. You'd get the bad porridge that we watched here for 82 games. No question about it. So a couple of things. I talked to Hampus at length about 10 days ago. He sounds very energized. He says he's back to 100%. It was a shattered kneecap. That second procedure was a screw that had to come out that was causing irritation.
Yep.
I'm grasping for a name here, so you guys help me. The kid that went from Anaheim at December 14th to St. Louis on defense. It'll come
Fowler?
to me as
Cam Fowler?
Yes. So interestingly, Don Sweeney talked on, I think, breakup day or soon after about had he known Hampus was going to be shut down, that he was going to go the full season, he would have done something differently. And I'm convinced doing something differently would have put him on LTIR, go out and get a real defenseman. The same day St. Louis got Fowler, the Bruins got the kid from the island. Again, help me. I'm grasping for names. The forward who's
Wallstrom.
Yeah, Wallstrom.
Yep.
So, they go out and get Fowler. Yeah.
Yeah.
They go out and get Fowler on December 14th instead. They may be in the playoffs. Brad Marchand may still be here. This is the fine line that all of this is on, right?
Right.
So, yes, and again, we're guilty of this. I was guilty of it with Jumbo Joe in terms of looking at him for what he wasn't rather than for what he was. I think there are parallels there with what we do with McAvoy, although McAvoy's game, in my estimation, is more developed than when they let Joe go.
Yep.
But Joe went on to have a Hall of Fame career. So we're always doing that. The only thing that mitigates, in my mind, when we typify the Bruins fan base as being spoiled, let's remember, one cup in 53 years. So it's spoiled in terms of we saw Bork, we saw Park, we saw Chara. We're always expecting more, but one cup in 53 years, I think it's understandable. People want more. They certainly want. They watch it to see the team win, right? They watch it to see that all these pieces come together. So overall, I'm very encouraged by the back end. I'll take Hampus at his word here that he's back in full stride, feels really good. I think when you see the types of injuries, and Mick brought it up, a history of shoulder injuries now with McAvoy, the knee thing, we saw how we've seen a million times how knee things can go upside down. Kevin Miller being the most prominent case recently.
Yep.
So they're going to go into that, no question, with a certain degree of fingers crossed.
Yeah. And like if it's going to go sideways again, if those players miss a lot of time, and if they're entering that stage of their careers, and they are entering sort of late 20s, early 30s, where like they're probably going to get banged up a little bit more. That's sort of part of the whole, I guess, equation, evaluating, trying to forecast like what it's going to look like and how they're going to be and how healthy they're going to be and all that stuff. They need to be healthy if the Bruins are going to, get a wild card spot, compete for the playoffs, and bounce back and have similar health to what they had prior to last season. But the other part of that, I guess, and something we haven't really talked about a lot is Jeremy Swayman. And I think he is a massive factor in all of this, perhaps the biggest factor in them being competitive and them surprising people is him bouncing back to what he's capable of rather than last year's lost season. Obviously there's encouragement with the way he played in the World Championships and helping Team USA win a gold medal. And, there were flashes last year, but it felt like he just was stuck in neutral, stuck in the mud the whole year after missing training camp and just couldn't get out of it. And there was talk of, whether there was disagreements or, people angry in the Bruins dressing room about the holdout and how it's summer in the season and all that stuff, and just his approach to the whole thing. How high is your belief, Dupes, that Swayman emotionally, physically, mentally, like all that stuff, is going to completely bounce back this year, will have a much better year, and will be the guy that the Bruins, frankly, are going to need him to be if they're going to be competitive?
I think Jeremy Swayman's a franchise goaltender. I do, and so you look at where he is, what he is. He's young. He's in condition. He's smart.
Yep.
I don't see any ego issue. He had a bad year. There's no getting beyond that.
Yep.
And people look at his goals against average, his save percentage. And what I always look at with goalies is timely saves. That's to me where he was a real disappointment. When they needed the big save, either they'd just gone ahead or they just pulled even. Those goals where he would give them up, or it's, they're trailing again. They just gave up the lead. The goalie's got to be there. Forget the numbers, the GAA and the save percentage. Is he the guy who keeps you in the game, gets you over that hump? When you're over the hump, you stay over the hump. He's going to make the big save, that save where the cliche being, you'll remember that one if, right? It was a year without that for Jeremy Swayman. But I think he's got the talent to get to that point where he preserves that. But I'm not, again, it ultimately comes down to wins, not those numbers, but wins. And to me, the root of that is the timely save.
Yeah, it is. It reminds me of Mike Sullivan when he was coaching the Bruins. And back in those days when they would win and you would ask about the goaltending, he would say he made the critical saves at the critical points in the game. And that was like his stock line. He would say that every time. That was basically, this is what I'm going to say about the goalies and stay out of trouble. And that'll be the end of it. And I don't have to talk about the goalies anymore after that. Mick, your confidence level with Swayman bouncing back. And like, I agree with everything you're saying, Dupes. The only thing I would add to it, or that was, somewhat of a tough pill to swallow last year, was that his bad season, his terrible season, much of that you could argue was self-inflicted, based on the situation. It takes two to tango. The Bruins played a role in that too. There's no doubt about it. But much of that was, or all of that was about holding out in training camp and not being there and, holding out for every last dollar and it submarining their year. So I think that he's going to have to play well too, to sort of make everybody fan-wise forget about that and sort of be all in on him again. And it's up to him to do that. He's capable of it. No question about it. He's got the talent and he should be able to do it. And I think he's going to be highly motivated to do it this year. I think he's a proud guy. I think he's a competitive guy. And I'm sure he's he wants last year to never happen again and for it to be over. And he's got the talent and wherewithal to do it. So, and he'll have to be that guy, and he'll have to be that much better if they're going to compete this year. Mick, your thoughts on feelings on Swayman going into this year?
Annoyed by what happened in the postseason and the Worlds.
Yeah.
And I really feel like the start was the problem. That's what spun the top. And I felt like the top was out of control. It's very similar to what happened with Byron Dafoe in '99. He's a Vezina finalist. I mean, Hasek was always going to win it. But he comes back the next year and has a holdout. And Pat Burns told our friend Chris Hurley, I've never seen a holdout that didn't hurt the player and the team.
Yeah.
Right by the book. That's exactly what we had. There was a perfect storm of other stuff that happened, including the mysterious offness of so many returning regulars to last year's team. Charlie Coyle, Morgan Geeky, they played like crap when they got there. The only guy I thought was really playing well was Zaka
Yep.
and Hampus Lindholm in the back end. And then Hampus blocks that shot and his season's done. And they don't know it at the time, but we know it's long term. And Monty didn't survive it. And it was always an uphill season. Razor, similarly, in the 05-06 return of the NHL.
Yep.
It wasn't his fault in that case as much as it was the botched strategy that left Mike O'Connell with no money to deal with Razor and Nick Boynton, who are Group 2, and he had to tell them, wait, I gotta go get some free agents and fill this roster. And it was Super Bowl Sunday at 6:30 p.m. There was nothing on the shelves, so and all of his good guys were gone. And I think that this is going to be a fresh start for everybody. And I think that it's going to be very interesting to see what the Bruins can get out of a lot of these misfits who are going to try to do like a for inaugural year Vegas Golden Knights kind of a thing and say, hey, nobody wanted us. Let's try to do something here and be a team. We'll find out if it's either that or it's going to be a top line and a bottom nine, unless Marco Sturm is going to reinvent a lot of wheels that I don't want to see reinvented. That's another wild card here. We could see him tinker. Who knows?
You talking about the 1-3-1 put you to sleep neutral zone trap? Is that the tinkering that you're talking about, Mick?
He'll play that if he doesn't feel like they're playing well. He pretty much told Spit and Chicklets that.
Yep.
If they're not playing well, he'll go to 1-3-1. If they're playing well and scoring, then he'll go for something more offensive stance.
So in other words, we're going to see a lot of 1-3-1. That's what you're saying.
Well, it could come down to that, just to kind of hold them in the season,
Yeah, I mean, I like even at this team's best, even if they're cranking, they're not going to blow teams out offensively. They're not.
I guess I didn't articulate it well because I was thinking more in terms of personnel.
Yeah.
What if he doesn't put the top line back together? What if he puts Morgan Geeky back on right wing where he doesn't score? You know, I mean, there's just a lot. I mean, Geeky's Knuble now. I mean, he's a right shot, big body, not too fast, but he's got a knack, and it works really well for him when he went to left wing. It helps playing with Pasta. That inflated the numbers some more, but it's got to be over there. His offense comes from left of center. That's how it works for him. Michael Ryder, Steve Hines, certain right shots have to be over there. He's one of them.
Yep.
And really broke open his game. And so these are things Sturm has to figure out. I'm sure that the management is very collaborative, and they're going to talk to him about everything that happened last year and what the guys who are returning, how they play, and what they think they can do. And then it's going to be Sturm's ball. And we'll see how he runs with it.
We talked a little bit about what you were most excited about for this upcoming season, Bruins-wise, Dupes. There's another question. What is the best? This is from RNDC2. What is the best move around the league this summer, and what one has you scratching your head? And that's league-wide. As far as a move you really liked, Dupes, or something you were like, okay, that team has really helped themselves, and another team where what they did you were not sure what the game plan was there.
That's a great question to make a great Sunday notes column. And if I had my brains about me right now, I'd have it off the top of my head. I do like where San Jose is going. I think they're organically they're getting better just from their draft picks and picking so low.
Yep.
Orlov
Mike Greer knows what he's doing. Like, he's a smart guy.
Yeah, I think they're figuring it out. Pittsburgh doesn't impress me. I'm thinking some of the places that really need some propping up.
The one I mentioned when I wrote, this was a Q&A question from Boston Sports Journal. The one team that makes me scratch my head more than any other, it wasn't anybody they signed. It was the relative lack of activity for the Detroit Red Wings.
Yes.
And Steve Yzerman, who is what is now 5-6 years, the Yzer plan has been going on there, and they're not markedly better, and they really didn't do much this summer.
I have to agree.
And I'm not sure, like, what that one has me scratching my head. Like, what are they waiting for? What are they doing? How are they going to get markedly better in an Atlantic division where there's a lot of really good teams and you've got to hit a certain bar in order to make the playoffs?
Yes, I agree. And I thought, even though all the energy ended up being around Marchand, that he would re-sign in Florida, I thought Detroit would have been a logical place for him.
Yeah.
Again, plenty of cap money, bring in a guy to stabilize a lineup, lead a lineup. I thought that would have been an ideal place for them. I have no idea if it probably never got on the table, but you can identify certain teams that need something, and that's what they need. They need more of what Florida's got, and of course you can say that about every team in the league right now. I'm going to take a half step back here for a second, Haggs, and say, I don't know, what are we, about 40 minutes into this now?
Yep.
And in our entire discussion about the Bruins and what they've got a goaltender, they've got two really good defensemen, and we've talked about everybody. They have one of the elite goal scorers of the era in Pastrnak, and we don't even talk about him.
Yep.
Right? We talk about, again, their foibles, whether this guy can be that. Again, to build a case why I don't think they're going to suck.
Yes.
They've got Pastrnak.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
One of the top 3-5 scoring forwards in the game.
Yep.
So there are assets here against a 32 team field. And I guess you could say 16, because it really comes down to a 16 team field when you're trying to get in this. They're not in great shape, but I don't think it's this building 19 and a half version of the NHL team that people are making it out to be.
Especially if Steve Spott is as advertised on the power play and comes in and reimagines that in a way where they can take advantage of Pasternak's talents and get every last bit out of it on the power play. Then I think they're going to be fine offensively. Like they'll score enough to win based on his talent, his ability to electrify a power play, his ability to attract attention whenever he has the puck and set other guys up, and his ability to pass, frankly, when he's in that position. Like he's become an elite playmaker as well as a scorer because he knows how to play off of the attention that he gets when everybody's rushing at him with the puck. You're right. But I think the part of the reason, Dupes, we don't talk about him is because of his brilliance, because it's become a foregone conclusion how good he is, how good he will be, and how good he's going to be next year, because he just clocks in and does it every year. He got off to a little bit of a slow start last year. I'm not sure he was in the greatest of shape in training camp. He said it was something to do with an injury he had over the summer or something that was bothering him. But once he got going, he was unstoppable. And it was like that all the way into World Championships when he was playing there. But I almost feel like we don't talk about him because there's no questions about how good he's going to be. There's not even a doubt as to what he's going to bring when he comes to the ice next year.
But again, we and I suffer from this too. And the whole fan base of automatically discounting them as a franchise when they've got one of the premier goal scorers in the game, and that does separate it. As for the power play at large, could it be worse?
Right.
No. So whoever's got it, should be able to do a little bit. You could look at last year and make an argument that 10 power play goals across 82 games, had it been the right game, had those 10 come on, they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's how critical it is. 8 to 10 power play goals. Which comes down to really one power play goal a month in the right game, they're in.
I think Arvidsson's going to help them there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
As a net front
around the net.
Yep.
Yeah. And I would try Kastelik. I'd try Kastelik in a net front position. I don't know if he had
there, so I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah. But to my point, in this case, he is a forward. He does have some hands. He does have some spatial awareness around the net. Give him a whack at it.
So when they played him up last year, it didn't go well. And I think it was just because Monty broke up the fourth line because it was the only line playing well early in the season,
Yeah.
and he sprinkled the three of them on different lines in the top nine, hoping that the magic would rub off. And all it really wound up leading to was a dissolution of the one thing that was going well. And that's, I mean, sometimes no matter what you try to pull out of your pocket, it's, you just get the lint and that's it.
Right.
And that's what happened to Monty. But, I want to take a swing at Joe's question real fast. I liked what Vegas did in getting Marner, not because I'm such a Marner guy, but because they really missed Marchessault. He was their quick line driving winger who plays like with a center's brain off the boards. They had that guy with that speed who was integral to their team, and then they didn't have him last year. And that's where Marner dresses. That's a classic GM move to get that player back in some manner, shape, or form, and in this case, an elite form. So the other one that's weird for me, my one that's lying in the weeds, I'm not anti-Quenneville. I understand he fell short in Chicago off the ice in a serious way, but I know that Pat Verbeek want to be out in front of this thing and say, look, we're ready to take another step with our franchise, and we're going to get this great coach here to take us to the next. I think that team made such substantial progress under Cronin 2 years in a row that it frankly surprised me that he was willing to do it now. And most coaching changes don't come under, they usually come under duress. I famously remember Harry Sinden taking Rick Bowness, kicking him to the curb after he swept the Montreal Canadiens.
Yes.
They overachieved with that tired team. With an influx of young players to get in there against Pittsburgh, which was almost a dynasty, and lost in 4 straight in the conference final. And then because he loves the way the Blues play under Sutter, he fired Bowness and brought in Brian Sutter. I like Brian Sutter. A lot of people didn't like Brian Sutter, but I didn't like how he got the job. I didn't like that. So, so I'm not sure how I feel about the Ducks. We'll see if this goes right or wrong.
Yeah. That's a good call. I mean, I was a little surprised that Cronin was let go too. I know there were once again bringing up Spitting Chicklets. There was, he was one of the guys that kind of there were whispers about him having a lot of personality clashes with players in the room or being too hard on them or players not wanting to play for him. And he's a hard driving coach. There's no doubt about it. But he was getting results and there's talent there in Anaheim. And it could be one of those situations like in Boston where, in hindsight, moving from Cassidy, a hard driving coach that the players didn't want to play for anymore, to a guy that was a softer approach. I don't think that was the right call. And I don't think it ended up helping them in the long run. It certainly didn't help them in the playoffs. Yeah, they had a record breaking season, but they
got rid of the player.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's what they ended up doing after a couple of years of the softer approach. And I think I'm interested to see. I think Marco Sturm's a little bit of a hybrid in that sense. I think the players will like playing for him, but I also think he's not going to be afraid to be critical. I think we've already seen that. He's not going to be afraid to speak his mind and be critical if he thinks something needs to be said. And that'll be interesting to see how some of those players in that room deal with that and that sort of back and forth, given how they've bristled at it. The public criticism and the public just discussion of games and not everything being sunshines and puppies and rainbows in public to the media. I think all of that's going to be really interesting.
What I always find about this interesting in this discussion, and I agree on Cronin. I thought Cronin deserved another year.
Yeah,
they made great strides. They even got Zegras to buy in.
Yep.
I thought for what he was positioned to do, he delivered it. And I in a fair world on merit, he deserved it. It isn't always the case. And that's a perfect analogy on the bonus firing. A prettier girl came into the dance and Harry decided to do that. So, but what surprises me in this whole discussion is one of the real neat things about covering hockey is players will admit when they suck.
Yeah.
By and large,
usually
it's not universal, but it's fairly universal that after a game when they stink, you go up to a player, They have no problem telling you, I blew it, I stunk, I got to do better than that, right? I mean, that is the culture of the sport. And there's a lot of failure within the sport because of just the bounce of the puck. But then you get a coach who's honest about it. And I don't understand that mentality. Yeah, he said you suck. You said you suck. I mean, so what?
Yeah, what's the problem?
You can't say it. That's the problem.
Right, right.
Everybody tiptoes around everybody else, but here's your flog. Hit yourself with it. That's how it works in this game.
And I got to say, I mean, I loved Cassidy from my perspective, and I think this was universal among the media.
Yes,
answered the question, answered honestly. Often took the question to a next dimension, which was astounding for a coach. Gave you something more to think about than what you had asked, right? What I'm led to believe players were deeming as open criticism was just everybody saw it. It wasn't like he was revealing secrets about what you were doing outside your marriage or something. He was just talking about your game, and it's got to be better in this certain situation. We're going to have to move him around because he's not doing the job as a face-off man or whatever it was. Really? That's how sensitive you are?
Hey, Dupes, remember the time at Wilmington after practice when it was you, me, and Felger standing there, and you asked Pat Burns on their way to Chicago, are you guys calling anybody up, sending anybody down, what? And he just went off and talked about ice packs and hot packs, and I'm sick of this and I'm sick of that. And he freaking read them the riot act. They were like 500 at that point, and they wound up matching the prior season's record and going on a tear, getting 91 points, which in that area didn't get the shootout. And they wound up making the playoffs and winning a series. It was the only year they won a series in between 1994 and 2009. I mean, that's a 15 years, one series. That was the year they did it. And that's how Pat Burns went off on them at Wilmington and answered your question about routine ups and downs going on the trip. And
I was going to say, I'm great at those cutting edge questions. Who's on the trip? Any call-ups? Yeah. What time does the game start?
Well, he coached the media. Pat Burns was the best I've ever seen at coaching the media. And the year before he first started, I remember Karen was at the game, and after they lost a game early season, he to the Red Wings, no doubt. She said something about the prior season, and he said,
"This is Karen Garrigan. This is Karen
This
Garrigan.
has nothing to do with last year. I'm not going to," and then he goes off on all of us and says, "I'm not going to let you guys sit here and shit on Jim Carrey and shit on the Boston Bruins. These guys played their hearts out. They played their hearts." He knew they were all standing in a locker room looking up at monitors watching this on Nesson. Yeah. And they played for him, and they turned it around, and they had a really good season. And it was the next season, the sequel season to that he came down on them in Wilmington when he felt like they were feeling sorry for themselves when they're all banged up mid-year. And so he was a master at using us to get at his players. And it was fun.
Yep. Good coaches can do that. They have the ability to do that. And you mentioning that story, Mick, makes me miss the crow's nest in Restuccia where we used to do those press conferences after the practices.
Oh, yeah.
R.I.P. to that place. That was
that's it. The preseason banquet.
That's
where I got to ask Jerry Cheevers and Ross Brooks, who were sitting together, who's the best goaltender you ever saw? And without any hesitation, they didn't even look at each other. They just both said, Terry Sawchuk. In like stereo. And I said, why? And they both answered, he was always square to the puck. No prior conversation that I know of. No knowledge that I was going to ask him that question. I was writing a magazine article for Hockey Stars.
All right. We've hit the hour mark, so we're going to end on that great hockey anecdote note. Dupes, Mick, thank you very much for joining us. Let's also let everybody know that you're listening to the Pucks with Haggs podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Make sure to hit subscribe to the Bruins Rinkside YouTube channel and turn on notifications for when a new video drops on this channel. The show is also brought to you by PrizePicks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the PrizePicks app today, and we'll use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Mick, Dupes, thanks for joining us, my friends.
Great fun,
All right,
guys.
lads, great time.
Everybody
Enjoy
else
the rest of your summer.
Yeah, you too. Everybody else out there, thank you for listening. Have a great rest of the summer, and we'll see you at the rink.